Hello there, and welcome to the Outside Views weekly magazine on global politics. Republicans are deeply divided over Donald Trump's candidacy in the next US election. A dinner that Mike Pence also sharply condemned is now causing the latest trouble. Republican Mike Pence, once known as a loyal deputy to US President Donald Trump, has criticized his former boss for having dinner with rapper Kanye West. Trump's dinner, which also included far-right nationalist Nick Fuentes, calls for a public apology. That's what Pence told News Nation. The ex-president showed extremely poor judgment when he gave these people a seat at the table, he said. Both Fuentes and West, who now calls himself Ye, are known for spreading conspiracy theories and anti-Semitic slogans. It was wrong for Trump to give a seat at the table to a white nationalist, an anti-Semite, and a Holocaust denier, and I think he should apologize for that, is what Pence said. He does not believe that Trump is an anti-Semite or racist, otherwise he would not have worked for him. However, Trump should publicly condemn the hateful rhetoric of his guests. Trump received West and Fuentes last week at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida estate. When criticism then hailed, he claimed not to have known Fuentes. Trump wrote about West in the network he co-founded, that's Truth Social. Anyway, we get along well. He expressed no anti-Semitism. Pence's comments come after about a dozen Republican senators previously voiced criticism of the meeting. For example, the prominent Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who wrote on Twitter on Monday afternoon, "President Trump, who invites racist anti-Semites to dinner, encourages other racist anti-Semites." Trump had declared almost 2 weeks ago for the Republicans' 2024 a rift in the party camp ever since. Pence was once a loyal Trump ally but has recently distanced himself from his former boss. He recently stated that he was considering running for president and would then also be ready to run against Trump. According to US estimates, China's nuclear arsenal will more than triple by 2035. A US Department of Defense report released on Tuesday said China now has more than 400 nuclear warheads. If China maintains the pace of its nuclear expansion, it will likely by 2035 have an arsenal of around 1,500 warheads. The US government had announced that it had 3,750 nuclear warheads in stock as of September 2020. The US has dismantled 11,683 nuclear warheads since 1994. Pentagon spokesman Pat Ryder warned Tuesday that an increase in China's nuclear arsenal would lead to growing instability. The more proliferation there is, the more worrying it is, the more destabilizing it is for the region. The Pentagon report on the Chinese military also said China was also modernizing its ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads. China fired around 135 ballistic missiles during tests last year, more than the rest of the world combined. Missiles fired during armed conflicts, for example in Ukraine, are an exception to the statistic, of course. The leadership in Beijing is also making rapid progress in modernizing its air force, drawing closer to the West, the report said. And according to the report, China has a standing army of nearly 1 million soldiers, the world's largest navy by number of ships, and the world's third largest air force. The government of US President Joe Biden sees the economically and militarily emerging China as the world's greatest geopolitical challenge. Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping met 2 weeks ago for the first time since they have been at the helm of the two countries. A central issue of the conflict was China's dealing with Taiwan. The leader of the extreme right-wing militia Oath Keepers has been sentenced to almost 2 years after the storming of the US Capitol. As US media reported from the court in the US capital Washington, after several days of deliberation, a jury found Stewart Rhodes guilty of seditious conspiracy, a crime rarely recognized in the country's judicial history. Rhodes was accused, along with co-defendants, of plotting to use force to prevent the transfer of power after the 2020 presidential election. Earlier this year, the US Department of Justice filed charges against Rhodes and other participants in the Capitol attack. Among other things, they planned to travel to Washington on January 6th in 2021 and organized weapons, paramilitary equipment and training in combat techniques in advance, it said. Several of the defendants had entered the Capitol themselves, while others had taken care of further coordination outside the seat of Congress and partly outside the city. The Justice Department said the maximum penalty could be up to 20 years in prison for seditious conspiracy. Rhodes' sentence will be determined at a later date. Supporters of then-President Donald Trump stormed the House of Parliament in Washington on January 6th in 2021 to prevent Democrat Joe Biden's November 2020 election victory from being confirmed. 5 people died as a result. The attack on the heart of US democracy shook the country. Trump had previously incited his supporters in a speech. Rhodes claimed during the trial that he had no plans to attack the US Capitol. According to the Russian Interior Ministry, gun crime in Russia has increased enormously over the past 10 months. This is what military expert Chris Owen writes on the social network Mastodon. He attributes this development to arms smuggling. Weapons and ammunition used in the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine are stolen on a large scale and smuggled back to Russia. Compared to the previous year, there is said to have been an average of 30% more crimes involving firearms, ammunition, and explosive devices, according to the Russian investigative portal rucriminal.info on their Telegram channel. The regions on the border with Ukraine showed top values. The Kursk border region is at the forefront, according to the US magazine Newsweek, citing the official statistics. Gun crime there is said to have increased by 675% in the first 10 months of the year compared to the same period last year. But gun crime has also increased significantly in Moscow. There have been around 3 times as many incidents in the capital. RuCriminal.info claims to have spoken to an employee of one of the responsible Russian authorities who is anonymous in the report. It is now possible to get almost any weapon in Russia, even in non-border regions, he reportedly said. And imagine how many others there are also who have brought trophies and hidden them at home, and at some point later, because of some injustice or intoxicated, they will take out their guns, he said. Nothing that the state-run Korean Central News Agency produces and sends out into the world is a coincidence. There is calculation behind every photo and behind every TV recording. It is a propaganda show intended to show Kim Jong-un's regime in a certain light, sometimes particularly powerful, sometimes dangerous, and in the current case, presumably as long-lasting as possible. A series of photos from North Korea showing the communist dictator Kim Jong-un with his daughter is currently causing speculation. Within a short period of time, Kim presented herself publicly with her for the second time now. And state media published photos of Kim's daughter and his wife Ri Sol-ju last weekend, and Kim was present with his beloved daughter and wife at the site of the launch of an ICBM on Friday, as Pyongyang said. So now the second appearance with the daughter. Usually the ruler is very careful to keep his private life secret. There is little information about his family. Kim is said to have 2 daughters and a son. The now published photos are said to show the eldest daughter, and her name is supposed to be Chue, but it's unconfirmed. So why twice a public production with his daughter? In an analysis, the BBC's Seoul correspondent suggested that Kim may have wanted to present his future successor. The North Korean regime is a family dynasty, and Kim wants his children to take over the helm one day. That was said by Jean Mackenzie. North Korea expert Michael Madden of the Stimson Center in Washington has a similar theory. The public appearance could be Kim's way of showing that the fourth generation of the reign will come through his bloodline. That's what Madden told the BBC. He also suspected that the daughter's name was Chue and that she was between 12 and 13 years old. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen resigned as party leader after losing local elections. In a televised address Saturday night, Tsai said she would take responsibility for the Progressive Democratic Party's poor performance. The islanders elected a total of 21 mayors and around 11,000 councillors on Saturday. The opposition Kuomintang party has made significant gains compared to the last election 4 years ago. In the capital Taipei, a KMT candidate, Chiang Wan-an, has also won the mayoral post. Chiang is the great-grandson of former military dictator Chiang Kai-shek. He fled from China to Taiwan in 1949 after the Kuomintang lost the civil war against the communists. The KMT is seen as right-wing conservative and anxious to get closer to China. The communist leadership in Beijing still regards the democratically governed island as part of the People's Republic. Taiwan, on the other hand, has long seen itself as independent. Tensions between the two neighboring countries had recently increased significantly. The owner of the Twitter news service, Elon Musk, has promised to help Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in the event of a presidential candidacy. When asked by a Twitter user if he would support the Republican in the next 2024 election, Musk succinctly replied, yes. And he later added, but Twitter as a platform has to be fair to everyone. After his re-election in November, DeSantis is considered the strongest possible inner-party rival of former President Donald Trump, who was voted out. Trump announced in mid-November that he was trying again to run for the Republican nomination. Musk had already written before his answer that he wanted a reasonable and moderate candidate for the 2024 election. But then DeSantis? I was hoping that would be the case with the Biden administration, but have been disappointing so far. He voted for current Democratic President Joe Biden in the most recent election, albeit reluctantly. He had previously supported the government of Barack Obama and his then Vice President Biden from 2009 to 2017. Musk bought Twitter for around $44 billion at the end of October, and already in the middle of the year he had indicated that he leaned towards DeSantis. For the first time, an Iranian general has spoken of many fatalities in connection with the ongoing system-critical protests in the country. General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps Aerospace Division, spoke in a speech of at least 300 dead, according to a video posted by the Tabnak online portal on Tuesday. I don't know the current statistics, but I think that since this incident, more than 300 martyrs and people have been killed in this country, including children, Hajizadeh said. In the language of the Iranian regime, martyrs means security forces. So far, human rights activists in particular have documented the number of fatalities. The US-based organization Human Rights Activists News Agency estimate at least 450 demonstrators dead as a result of the suppression of the protests, including 64 children. In addition, 60 security forces are said to have died. The Revolutionary Guards are the elite unit of the armed forces in Iran and are more important than the traditional military. And there are a lot of violent actions going on by the Revolutionary Guards at the moment. Commander Hajizadeh once again blamed Iran's enemies for the protests. In addition to the United States of America, he also named Germany and France. In the past few weeks, the military and politicians have already shifted the blame to other countries. Observers see this as an attempt to distract from the real causes of the protests. The trigger for the mass protests against the Islamic Republic system was the death of the Iranian Kurd Gina Mahsa Amini in mid-September. She died in police custody after being arrested for allegedly violating Islamic dress codes. And this concludes this week's magazine, but I hope to see you, of course, next week. And in the meantime, have a look in the video description. There are all my other channels. And as you've seen above, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. So there are some videos that I can't publish on YouTube, so have a look there too. I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.